Hello and welcome back to ListenABLE for 2025 of sorts. This is technically episode 4 of 2025, but first time Dylan and I have been in the studio.
We're back, baby.
Yeah, Dill's been off doing live golf in Adelaide and
Australian Open.
yeah, so flat out.
Can't get away from me.
We just couldn't let mid-March be the time that we come. Well, podcast except for Hamish and Andy comes back mid-March.
Yeah, true. I mean, we do.
Well, no,
in person.
we were
Well,
back
yeah,
in
you know what I mean, in person.
That's right, in person.
We're not as big dog as Hamish and Andy.
No,
yet.
we're not. But we do have better guests because they don't have any. And today we're really excited, especially for Dylan having a relationship with this bloke, to kick back into 2025 with a guest you've met, you said, about 50 times.
Funny way that we met, actually. I'll tell you about that in a second. But before that, let's let him introduce himself.
G'day, I'm Charles Brice. I am a journalist, work on the ABC as a presenter, producer, and hopefully an all-round nice guy.
Do you remember how I first heard about you? Do you know the story?
Yeah, I remember the phone call.
Yeah.
I got it from my sister, Courtney, saying, you would never guess who I've picked up. She runs a transport business out of the Gold Coast Airport.
Well, we landed to go to Spinal in the grass, Angus, and there was no cars, and like conventional cabs and conventional ride share sometimes isn't great for people with disability. Anyway, I couldn't get in the car. We were like stranded at the airport, and there was this guy called Harry, who's your brother-in-law, and he's like had other people that he was going to pick up. Shout out to Harry, booted them and took us. And then Harry met Harry and Courtney, and they drove us all weekend at Splendor. And she said, yeah, my brother had an accident, and now he's like an aspiring journalist, and he's a hand cyclist. And we FaceTimed you, didn't we? Or we called you or something like that?
I think so, yeah.
I probably had about 20 beers at this point. And then I thought she was just like, oh, my brother wants to be a journalist in a wheelchair, whatever. Next minute, you're bloody hosting the sport on ABC News Breakfast and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then we've crossed paths, obviously, 20, 30, 50 times in our lives, mate. So, yeah, it's cool how that happened.
Yeah, it is.
I thought she was talking shit, to be honest. And the next minute, you're kicking ass, which is great to see.
That's a wild story and great memory, Dill.
Oh, mate, like Harry and Courtney saved us that Splendor. Like we was absolutely stuffed. And then, connected us together, and then we became friends. It's pretty cool.
Do you know what? I've got a funny story about that. I got a video from you in 2019. I did a bike ride.
I remember.
And I got a video from you, and you're going through how you met Courtney, Harry, and how you met my mum, Ruth.
Yeah.
My mum's name's Rhonda.
Oh, yeah.
But
Shout out to you, Ruth.
Ever since that day, I've called her Ruth. She's Ruth in my phone.
Oh, no way.
Rhonda,
it's
I'm so sorry, Rhonda. I love you so much. All right? That's funny.
We should call Ruth.
G'day, Ruth. Yes.
Oh, magic stuff. So what, we're going back to like 2018 or something, so 6 years
2018, 19, yeah.
Yeah? Okay, wow.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Splendor. It was a great time.
And for an aspirational then journalist to now, like Dylan said, be leading sport on ABC television, being a journalist yourself and a producer, it must have been a pretty successful and hard-worked 6 years. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Been a pretty wild ride. I finished uni in 2018 and spent the better part of the year trying to find a job. But all throughout my time at uni, I was doing internships just off my own bat, just trying to get as much work experience as I can. I did 2 weeks of work experience at the ABC in Adelaide, and probably nearly a year later, they called me back and said, we've got a job for you. It's just part-time as a digital producer, and I was like, yeah, I'll take it for sure. So I did that for about 18 months, and sort of like right time, right place. I ended up meeting the news director of the ABC and had a quick conversation with him, and then a few weeks later, he's called back and said, if you want, we'll give you a trial on ABC's News Breakfast as the Adelaide reporter. I had no TV experience whatsoever going into it, and it showed. It was a bit of a sink or swim moment. So I had 8 weeks of a trial, and here we are, probably, I think about 4 years later, here in Melbourne, in the studio, just doing a few different roles in the morning. So, yeah, it's been very wild. A whole lot of luck has gone into it, but I think I've worked pretty hard as well to try and be the best I can at what I do.
It's a great lesson for anyone watching, disability or not. You got to put yourself out there sometimes to get those opportunities. I remember I was on Triple J, got interviewed, and I said, I want to work here one day to the boss. And then 2 years later, like, do you still want to work here? Can you remember what you said to the boss of News Breakfast about what you wanted to do?
Yeah. So it was my boss in Adelaide. He came to me and he was like, we've got this opportunity for you. Do you want to do it? And I sort of didn't really know what it entailed apart from early mornings. But I was like, yep, I'll do it. and I'll figure out all the rest later. So, it meant getting up at 4 a.m., for someone with my level of spinal cord injury, it can be a bit tricky.
You literally just stole my first question. Now we're on it. Can you talk about that? Because you're a quadriplegic, correct?
Yeah.
Takes a little bit longer to get ready than, say, Angus. I know it takes me a bit longer, but you're probably a bit longer than me. What does that entail? Because I've seen you live on News Breakfast, 6 a.m., jacket on, looking fresh as the daisy.
It's cold.
You are not getting up at 5:55.
No.
Can you just tell us what that morning looks like for you? You don't have to go into too much detail if you don't want, but just around the times.
Yeah, so I guess I have to be in at work at 3 a.m. here in Melbourne.
That's tough.
I'm not getting up at 1 a.m. to jump through the shower. So I'll, whack on a pair of pants, top, whatever, and then make my way to the studio. I'll leave home at sort of 2:30, get in there on time. And, even still in the morning, it takes a little longer to, chuck my strides on. And, but then it's at the other end of the day where, you've got to do all your shower routine and stuff like that. So it's taken like a fair hit to the social life.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And just your regular day-to-day. But, having done these hours for sort of 4 years now, I've come to realise that nothing good happens after 8 p.m.
Debatable.
When I was like 24, it used to be 1 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The clock is slowly coming back.
Yeah, right. No, I did those hours. Yeah, I did brekkie radio for a while. So I was 3:30 was the earliest I got up. So nothing on you. But it's amazing what This is nothing to do with the disability podcast, but it's amazing how productive you can be when you get through it. You just got to get through that 2 p.m. lull. That was when I found myself sleepy on the couch doing the drop-offs between 2 and 4. But were you up that early this morning?
Yeah.
Hang on. Did you leave TV makeup on today because you're coming on, or did you wipe it off?
I left it on.
You left it on. I can tell. You're hot.
Well, I knew there were going to be lights.
You're hot anyway. When you walked in, I was thinking he's got his TV makeup on. Sure.
I'll tell you what, my hair is receding quicker than quicker than anything. So
you're looking good. Enjoy while you can. Charles, we are a disability podcast. We have sort of mentioned quadriplegic there for a second, but at this point, it's just been kind of a careers potty. If you're comfortable telling us about your disability and your story.
Yeah, sure. So I acquired my disability when I was 19. I was, the fittest, the strongest, the healthiest I'd ever been. I was working on a property in Loxton in South Australia's Riverland. And I was pretty new to the area, and I'd only really known two blokes, a good mate of mine and another workmate who were all living together. And, motorbikes have been a huge part of my life. Got my first one when I was 4 years old. Had thousands of fall-offs over those 15 years. And then, went out for a ride one day on a Saturday morning before footy. Thought it'd be a great way to meet a few guys in the area. And, I wasn't doing anything silly, just pretty innocuous fall. The front wheel hit a bit of a mound in the track, and I went over the handlebars, and just couldn't move anything since. I was the last one in the group, so we were riding trail rides. So there's the start and finish was home, and there was probably 30, 50 k's in between. So I was the last one, so I wasn't found for a good 20, 30 minutes. So
what happened? The boys, they kept going, and then they went, shit, where's Charles?
Yeah, so we'd regroup every so. It was only just after we'd regroup, we took off, and then I come a gutser, and then the wait was a little bit longer than what I would have liked, but
didn't make a difference with the outcome.
It's hard to say. I did some things after my accident which potentially could have. I grew up in a small country town in Narracourt, and I was not exposed to disability at all growing up, so I didn't learn it throughout school. I had no idea about spinal cord injuries until the day that I had one. So after the wait and when someone came back and found me, I almost kind of took control of the situation, even though I didn't really know what was happening. So I got his name's Kane, the bloke that found me. I was like, mate, can you take the helmet off? So he took the helmet off, played around, not played around with my neck, but I was moving around. I was really uncomfortable.
You were moving your arms and stuff?
No, I couldn't.
Okay.
I had a phone in my pocket and I was trying to reach for it, but I
Okay.
just couldn't move a thing. So, had the helmet come off, and then it wasn't painful at all. It was just as if you had a bad night's sleep without a pillow. So I didn't realise what I'd done. So I was just a bit uncomfortable. I remember him taking his t-shirt off to put it under my head as a bit of a pillow. So whether it's changed anything or not, it's one of those hypothetical things.
Probably not by sounds, but good PSA for anyone who does have an injury. Stay there until experts come and sort you out.
Yeah, brace your neck. You're out in the country though, so what, do you get an airlift? Chopper come out for you for that next level of support?
A couple of paramedics in an ambulance came to me. The weather was closing in, and so the chopper couldn't come directly to me. So I got taken to the Loxton Hospital, got assessed there, and then got flown to Adelaide later that night, and surgery the next day.
Oof, big part of your story, mate. You had some ambitions as well. Speaking about the chopper, I know that you wanted to be a pilot. Was that at about the age of 19, or in that kind of early years of finishing high school, not knowing what you wanted to do next?
So I knew from day dot that I wanted to be a pilot. My dad is a pilot, so pretty well every weekend I was out at the Narracl Aero Club flying around. I had my first lesson when I was 15, flew solo when I was 16. So it was always going to be a pilot. There was no plan B. So it was a pretty quick thing that I had to come to sort of work out my next phase of life.
Good at physics?
Nah.
Well, then you
what?
would have struggled to be a pilot, boss.
I did physics in year 11, and my what do you call it? Like the exams, halfway through the year.
Yeah.
I remember my results got sent home, and my mum was home. She opened them up for me, and she just started laughing.
Yeah.
I was going to say, so on that pilot story, one thing we learned on this podcast was, that would have taken away, it doesn't have to take away your dream of being a pilot so much. I mean, I'm sure there might have been some adaptability, you could have done it, but that dream of being a 747 or Qantas pilot, for example, probably would have been dashed. It's tough when you're 19 and bulletproof, being told that, we get told we can be anything we want to be. And we had a young autistic man on the podcast who can't fly because of his autism. For you, when did you realise, that dream was sort of dashed because of, your new physical self?
Oh, when I came out of sedation.
Really?
Yeah. Well, probably, yeah. That's when I first realised. And I remember when I was still in hospital, I was in the Spinal unit in the Royal Adelaide, and I remember, I think it was my dad, he brought in a magazine, and it had I think it was like a spinal cord injury magazine, and it had a bloke on the front cover, and his plane. Dad was like, one day you might be able to fly, but at that point I still couldn't even touch my nose to, itch it. So I was kind of like, oh, that's out of the question for me. And like that, it really stung because, all I wanted to do was fly. So realizing that I couldn't, it was, almost more upsetting than being told I couldn't walk again.
Actually, I've seen on TikTok and Insta and we've had some people on here, there are ways to fly a plane now as a wheelchair user. Any vibe? Would you want to do it?
Yeah,
Have you done
for
it?
sure. I've flown plenty of times,
Post.
since my injury. Just had someone in the seat next to me doing, a few of the controls. But, it's certainly within sort of my 5-year plan to be back in the air and doing it myself.
Well, I know ABC News Breakfast. There's a good story. Get him a plane.
It's the pay packet. I think that comes.
Yeah. When did you? So obviously flying was off the table. When did you see the shift that you wanted to get into journalism? Was that something that you kind of found that you wanted to do, obviously after the accident, or did you always have a bit of an interest before it?
No interest before. It was all post injury. So I had 18 months in hospital and rehab, and that was before any sort of streaming service. All day it was just the news on telly. And, other than, your therapies, there's not much to do in rehab apart from watch telly. So I'd be watching the news all the time, and I took a real liking to it. My English was better than my physics at school, and I figured that it was something that I could physically do. So, I thought, why not give it a crack? And my dream was always TV, but, when you're growing up and you're not seeing anyone in the news as a journalist on TV, we were always the content, the subject of a story. We weren't the storytellers. So I thought it might be a bit tricky, but yeah, I thought I'd give myself a bit of a challenge.
Do you find that, being a journalist for the ABC and just a journalist in general, that you will always get the disability stories?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like, a lot of people will approach me with those stories around disability. And, a lot of them are really important to tell. I've kind of steered away from a few of them. I don't want to be pigeonholed to be, a disability reporter or only doing stories relating to disability. I've got many other interests outside of, my injury. So I've thought that was really important for my career. But yeah, there's been a few times where I've been labelled like the disability reporter, which is not a bad title to have at all. But yeah, it's just something that I get constantly.
I wonder that because it's like Dylan's a tennis player, so he does the AO, the Australian Open. So it's like there's an approach because you can speak about tennis.
Oh, well,
with Andy Murray. You can sit down and you can talk about the techniques, the training. So I guess the same thing kind of.
Well, that's the only reason. The only reason that happens, Channel 9 backed me as a tennis I can't even say the word. That's how good I'm going.
Analyst.
Thank you very much. Equally, I was very proud to present the Paralympics, but I was very, very stoked to host the Olympics because I was like, yeah, I'm a person with disability, but I can host the Olympic Games. And the fact that in this instance, Channel 9, Wild Water Sports backed me was epic, and I know you were like, that's pretty dope. And I think you nailed it. We're not proud of being disabled broadcasters and do stories about disability, but we are just good broadcasters. And, I've seen you on ABC News Breakfast do the sport. It's not like we're going to go to Tony for the able-bodied sport and now we're going to go to Charles for the Paralympic story. It's like you're just doing the sport, which is awesome for you. And I think that's where we, as disabled, want more people in our industry to get opportunities where we're just being us with an interest in storytelling across multiple platforms and subjects.
Yeah, for sure. It's really important to, have people with physical disabilities, but, also hidden as well. With that side of things, we also bring that experience and exposure to topics like disability, which again, is really important. I
was just having a laugh. Imagine if some broadcast was like, oh, they got an able-bodied person doing the able-bodied sport. Look at the disabled guy. I'd be like, that is shocking.
We probably wouldn't be on.
I was laughing because I was saying it. I was like, please don't ever do that, anyone.
That's
oh, God.
So you did, once you had the opportunity at the ABC in South Australia, you did enroll into a journalism course though. So you really did,
you did the work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did my journo degree. I think I was about a year out of rehab that I enrolled into uni. So yeah, completed that. And then, got the job with ABC.
Up until that point, did you struggle to find work? I think you did even mention that you hadn't had it. Was it you hadn't had a full-time job or a full job up until that point? And then I know it was only a part-time to begin with or a trial. But do you think that sort of grabbing that opportunity, not to say people with disability have to grab any, opportunity for employment, but, certainly doesn't seem like, that going down this path has been a bad choice for you. Your role has also taken you over to Berlin and the Paris Paralympic Games. Can you tell us about your experience there, watching some of the best athletes in the world? And also I heard there's a bit of I'm not going to say a funny story, but a bit of a harrowing story about your experience over there.
So yeah, lucky enough to do a bit of travel around Austria and Germany before going to Paris. And I love having long hot showers in other people's showers because I don't have to pay for the water.
Well said.
And there was like this ledge in the shower, just at the perfect height. Put your arm on and rest. And I was probably in there for 20 minutes. And after I got out of that shower, I was under the bed and put my arm up, and I just saw all this skin dripping off of my elbow, and I was like, oh, that's not good.
Just for context, so heat and cold is something hard to feel. So
particularly on the inside of my elbow, the feeling around there is a bit patchy.
I've got a little bit of feeling, more pressure than I'm the same. Like if I'm sitting on something hot, I don't notice for a little while.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that actually hurts.
Dill's got a burn on his knee from
I had a very, 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 very large night one night back when I was just out of school and was ready for bed, put it that way, and slept. Remember the old IBM ThinkPad computers, a bit thicker with the big block charger? I did not move for 12 hours and my kneecap was on the charger for 12 hours. And I
You woke up and you were one.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was dreaming that my knee was hurting, weird. And then I looked down and I still have this huge, it looks like I've got a hickey on my knee, basically, permanently, because it was just sizzled off. You could like smell it. I was like, that's crazy. Anyway, yeah, so I hope you're not eating breakfast while listening to that. Yeah.
I noticed that. I actually texted a mate of mine, Dinesh, who's a doctor.
Mate,
We love Dinesh.
Mate, big fan of the podcast. Been on the
Fellow
show.
partner.
Yeah.
G'day, Dinesh.
Yeah. So I messaged him. I was like, mate, this is what I've done. What do I need to do?
Hospital.
Well, yeah, I was going on a tour that day, so I didn't really want to go to hospital. But he was like, mate, just go and get some dressings. Went to a couple of chemists in Berlin. I was like, mate, this is what I need. And they were like, yeah, they'll cost you $3,000. And I was like,
What?
Hang on.
I was like, mate, yeah. And then I went to another one. They're like, yeah, that'll be $500.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll risk the infection.
Yeah. I think I saw the
And then,
cute little wheelchair boy
Yeah.
come in and go, yummy, let's go.
but no, I got some cheap dressings. It was all right.
I remember when I saw you in Paris and like, what did the first thing I said? I said, what the F happened to your arm? You had like the full setup of the wrapping and things like that.
Shit.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it was just the arm, luckily?
Yeah, just the elbow. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but it was pretty big, pretty nasty. So
Wow.
What was it like working the Paralympics?
yeah, one of the most amazing experiences I've had, not just as a journo, but in life. Yeah, it's just going over and seeing the best of the best do their thing on the world stage. But I think for me, more it was being able to watch friends compete. And break world records. Come close to medaling. And some of them competing in the first Paralympics. It was just a really special experience to be able to sort of to be there and to cover, what is one of the most important sporting events on the calendar. Yeah, it was incredibly lucky to be able to be sent over there and sort of burn a little fire in me to pull my finger out and get quick on a hand cycle.
Oh, really? So you got aspirations to compete next year?
Like
come on.
it'd be nice. I've done nationals and stuff like that, but I mean, it would be great. That's the pinnacle of all sport, right?
What a scoop.
Mhm.
Get this on ABC News Breakfast.
I might. I'd probably need some EPO or something.
Fast forward
I-
3
to be
years,
able to-
We
replay
don't, we don't get an EPO here.
No, neither do I.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if I was going to do it,
Speaking of hand cycling, because you touched on it then, you obviously did the co-found, it's called Wheel to Walk, correct? Where you rode 600K, something like that, raise money for charity. Can you talk about that experience and what it was like?
yeah, it was tough. So we did a couple of events, one in 2019, one in 2021. Yeah, a dear friend of mine, Sarah, she came to me. She said, I want to do some fundraising for you. And this was 8 years post-injury. I was like, nah, it's not about me. I've had enough fundraisers in the past. Let's do it for, the greater good, raise some money for spinal cord injury research. So myself, Sarah, and 20 other people all rode from the site of my accident to Adelaide across 4 days. That was about 300 Ks. And it was really successful. We were able to raise about 145 grand.
Cool.
And then, we were silly enough to do it again at that time around the southeast of SA, just where we grew up, going to different towns. And again, that was sort of bigger and better, another 170 grand or something for spinal cord injuries. But yeah, it's tough going, pulling big Ks on the bike. But yeah, it was just a really good experience to be able to do it with some of your nearest and dearest.
The tagline for it is riding to cure spinal cord injuries. What does cure mean for you, and why are we trying to raise money to, for the research and development of trying to get people maybe back walking?
Well, yeah, the answer's in the question, to get people back walking. I love my life and love my life in a chair, but if you could say that I'll wake up tomorrow walking again, would I take it? Absolutely.
Why is that?
Because it means that I wouldn't have to spend 2 hours, getting ready for, my daily activities, or wouldn't have to overcome all the obstacles that we have to do in a day to day. I could drop my keys on the ground and easily pick them up. I could regulate my body temperature. I could, not struggle to find a bathroom. I don't know how long we got. But also too, like, I love my life and I love everything that's happened after my injury and all the people I've met. But, it's a traumatic thing to go through, not just for me, but my family and friends as well. And it's probably an injury that, you wouldn't wish upon anyone. So that's what it's all about.
It's a cool perspective that we often hear. I hate my life, so I want to be cured. Not I love my life, and I would also like to have that opportunity. Because you can definitely have both. Yeah, I obviously wouldn't change my situation. I'm happy, but just on a real run of people parking in disabled spots that don't have stickers this week, and I'm like getting ropeable. I haven't had this much unlucky luck. I'm like, what's going on?
Even downstairs.
Have they lowered the fine?
I walk past it. Dylan isn't in a disability parking space downstairs.
Taken.
He's behind it, but I walk past him. Has it got a sticker?
Yeah.
I'm never alone. I'm like, I'm having such a shocker.
I'm in a 15-minute loading time at the
fine,
moment.
mate. I'm happy to say that, I have parking, what are they called? Debt collectors coming after me for tickets. I go, let's go to court, baby, because I'll get out of all these. Because there's so many minimal parks around town.
I've got a parking fine at the moment, and they rejected my what do you call it? Like
application to get it off.
So yeah,
so now you're gonna go to court.
But I'm thinking about it. But the pay machine was not accessible. There were about 12 bollards around it. It was about 3 feet back from a gutter. How do you accept?
You'll be successful. Yeah. Don't worry. If you actually go to court, you'll be fine.
You still got to take the time though to put that application in, like all the evidence that's needed.
It's principle.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait, why'd you buy a ticket? You don't need to buy a ticket with in a private car park.
I didn't buy a ticket.
But you don't need to buy a ticket with a permit on the street.
Yeah.
It's a private car park.
It was like a council.
Yeah, you need to.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome to ListenABLE Parking Edition.
I don't know why I did train. Devolve Uncomfortable, Charles. It's a segment we do where people send us questions, maybe directly to you if they know that you're coming on the show, or maybe they're just general questions about disability that make them feel uncomfortable. The hope is we ask it, Dylan and myself, and it makes it a bit more of an open conversation. And maybe you won't have to answer that question again if it's
I like mine.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a question from Lisa.
Go.
If you had to interview yourself, would you be good enough as a journalist to get the article commissioned?
Do you know what? Like
or do you think you're not good enough as a subject to get it up there?
Yeah, like I've had this conversation before with people. Like I just feel like I lead like a pretty boring life. Like some things I do like are pretty cool, but
3rd-degree burns in Berlin followed by the Paralympics is pretty cool.
I mean, breaking your neck on the motorbike and becoming one of Australia's leading journalists, also pretty cool.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah. But I mean, like I'm just a regular country kid trying to make my way. So I don't know. Yeah.
Imposter syndrome.
Let's go. Get on there.
Have the confidence.
It's coming up there.
There we go. This one's a bit more of a comment, and then I've got a little follow-up for it. But is it rude that the prize for journalism is called the Walkley?
Brilliant.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've often wondered, like, if my last name is Walker, like how ironic it would be.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's true.
I actually like in my head, when you win a Walkley, that speech just so easy. The opening minute of that is just so easy. I can't wait. Yeah.
Didn't know I was eligible.
Yeah.
And the question that I have for a follow-up for that is, what's the best disability story you've covered or heard yourself through being in the industry?
It's probably a few. Best disability story I've covered.
And story.
Yeah, sure.
Do both.
All right. So best disability story. I was able to interview a whole family, but the story was about a young kid who was looking after. He was a carer for his mum and his brother. At the time, he was only. I think he started as like an official as a carer for his mum and brother when he was. Yeah, he wasn't even 10.
Jeez.
And just being able to be in their home for an hour to listen to the young kid who that's all he's ever known is looking after his mum and little brother. There aren't too many stories where you go away from it being like, well, that's like made a big impact on me. But it made me sort of appreciate the childhood that I had and the life that I've got now. It was pretty special. The best interview would have to be with Phil Liggett, the voice of cycling. Just an absolute legend. Interviewed him a couple of times for the Tour Down Under in Adelaide. Yeah, if you call my phone and it goes to voicemail, he's it. He's,
Cool. He
he's the
did a
voice.
voice memo for
Yeah,
you.
so he's just a lovely, lovely guy as well.
Yeah, lovely.
So that was the second biggest career highlight after today.
Yeah, of
Perfect.
course.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
no, of course.
Before we let you go, one more question just from me. You're obviously a leader in this space, and I know a lot of people with disability kind of look up to you because they want to work in this industry. What does that mean to you to know that you're that person for people that, you know, when you're in rehab, you didn't really have that?
I don't put any import, like I don't go to work thinking, you know, I'm it in a bit. I'm doing all this work for all these kids. But if I was going through rehab and I saw myself, or saw someone in a chair, I would think, you know, it is possible. And that would then give me the confidence to go and enroll in a journalism degree or go and do whatever the hell you want. Because if you can't, what's that saying?
Cannot be where you cannot see.
Yes, that's it. Thank you. And I think that rings very true.
Well, you don't know about this, but this is actually a special episode of ListenABLE because I want to dedicate this one to Rhonda.
Yes.
Your mum, Rhonda. This is all for you,
Well,
Rhonda.
we call her Ruth. It's
Ruthie.
Ruth now.
Ruth, I love you, Rhonda Ruth.
Charles Brice on Instagram. You can follow him. I will have it in the
What do
show
you want?
notes
Sorry,
below.
before that, what's the end goal? What do you want to do?
Well, 5 years, got Paralympics.
Yeah,
Yeah,
besides that, what about broadcast end goal?
Or 3 years
Throw it out there.
Paralympics.
Well,
Throw it out there.
I've got another bike ride coming up. Bit of a longer distance one this year. So
Where are we going? Secret?
Oh, I can't tell you just
You're
yet.
the exclusive on ABC
Yeah,
Breakfast.
no, I'll drop you a line.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
That'll be happening in July. So that'll be good. And then also flying. Flying's a big one for me. So I want to be up in the air sort of within 5 years. Broadcast-wise, just keep doing what I'm doing and see where the road takes me.
He wants to be the main host. Main host, thank you. ABC, if you're watching at Commercial Networks.
We just had a changeover, didn't we?
Yeah, big changeover.
Yeah.
Tone's gone. Roland gone.
Yeah, he lives on my
Bryce
street.
in.
I see him every single day.
Who? Roland?
Roland.
Oh, he's a bloody legend.
He lives down in my street.
Yeah,
Roland.
shout out. Hey, big fan of the podcast.
Yeah, well, you should be.
Yeah.
Thank you, Charles. Thanks very much for your time in the
Thank
studio.
you.
Thanks very much for coming in. Obviously, now knowing your huge day, you're 12 hours into it, well-earned nap. Well, we've actually got you through that little lump. So, you know, hopefully the day just goes a little easy for you.
We'll put a photo up of him with no makeup on after this. I recognise him.
Catfish.
Looking very different.
Thank you,
See
mate.
you, brother.
Cheers.